Coach Murphy, Roll Tide. It's good to have you back home, but I imagine you had a blast with your team out in Italy.
Roger, hey, good to see you. It's always great to be on a Zoom with you or at Hey Coach at Baumhauer's. You know, I was thinking about before we got on what I was going to say to you this morning, and in all honesty, this is something that every team should do. It is like, to me, it's one of the best things that we can do as a university, as a coach of young ladies or young gentlemen. I know Nate had a really, really awesome opportunity last summer when he went to Europe. Christy's over in Spain right now with her team. And I remember one of the tweets from one of the basketball young men that said, we came over here as individuals, we left as a team. And he was exactly right. And I feel the same way with our group. You know, how many times do you get to travel to one of the coolest places on earth with your best friends, play softball? We got to practice before we left, which is all, you know, part of the deal. And then you get to sightsee across the country of Italy. I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that. And it's an incredible educational opportunity for these young ladies.
And you mentioned that every team really benefits from something like this. And we've talked before about the concept of Mudita and some of the different things you do with how the seniors help bring the freshmen along and the culture you try to build at Alabama. And again, just how did you see that a trip like this help complement all the work you do for the team building you try to have in Tuscaloosa?
Yeah, it really started when we started practices at home. And, you know, we're very, very fortunate that we get to have 4 managers that help us every day. Well, in the summer, they were not around. They're doing their thing. So guess who became the manager for the 7 days of practice? The young ladies. So we have a saying in our program, you have an attitude of gratitude, and to whom much is given, much is expected in return. And so it started with a little work ethic. You know, we had 3 a days. We had 2 practices, and we had a weight room session with Michelle Diltz, our strength coach. I thought we got a lot of stuff done in 7 days. And, you know, you can just see the newbies, you know, starting to get more comfortable, and that's what you want. And then you get to play 3 games against the Italian national team, who just qualified for the World Championships next summer. So we got to play a really good team, 3 games, and learn a lot about everybody.
What was the fan reaction when you did play games there? Were there some people with some crimson on or the script A in the stands?
Absolutely. There was a gentleman with, you know, old school Alabama shirt. He'd just been a fan for years and years and years. It started with football, and we talked to him. He got to talk with Dr. Karen Lee, our boss, in the stands, just the nicest guy. And he found himself rooting for Alabama football a long, long time ago. And then he's discovered other sports, and he became a fan of softball. So it just, you know, after the last game, there was probably 30 to 40 little girls that were, you know, from that community where we were playing, and they all came onto the field and got autographs from all of our players and their players. And I can remember we did the same exact thing in the Netherlands and in Japan when we went over there. So just that touching the next generation of softball players is the coolest thing.
Certainly good to see. And when the Crimson Tide first made it to Italy, first stop was Venice, as we'll talk about some of the sightseeing opportunities you got to have. And that's a great way to start the trip. It feels like going to Venice and seeing the water right up against the buildings and the gondola rides. That must have been incredible.
Yeah, and obviously the food. And believe it or not, I lost weight during the 10 days that we were over there, because all you do is walk. And, you know, their cities, they all have a city center. Well, a big old bus is not able to get anywhere near the city center because the streets are so small. So everybody in the community, tourists, locals, they have to walk. So we were averaging about 25,000 steps a day. So it didn't matter if I ate pizza 11 times or pasta 12 times, which I probably did. And then we stopped at every pastry shop, because if you really knew me, you would know the way to my heart is through a baked good. So we tried everything, and obviously the food is incredible. But Venice was awesome. We got to go to Florence for a day, another city that I would highly recommend. 4 of us walked the steps of the cathedral all the way up 465 steps on a very hot day, but the view up at the top was worth it. We got to go to Parma, Ferrara, Lake Como, Milan. It was, you know, in the years past, we would stay in one city and take day trips. And we just felt like this was an opportunity where there was so many sites and historical things and things to do and see that we just kind of made our way across the country in the northern part. And every city just was better and better and better than the previous.
On rolltide.com, you can look at the softball page, a great day-by-day recap of the trip with a lot of pictures, including you on quite a hike, it looked like, in Lake Como. What can you tell us about that?
Well, Michelle Diltz, she was either going to get fired or it was Kent Gidley, who is our all-star photographer who's been here for 37 years. I think the only one that's been here longer than me. And Michelle is our strength coach and in great shape. And she's like, hey, how about a hike, this morning? And so Ken and I were the, I don't know, the guinea pigs or whatever that said yes. And I don't think either one of us realized that it was straight up a hill mountain, 5 miles. The trails were about this big with rocks and it was wet. And there was a ledge, like if one of us would have slipped, it was probably not going to be good. But we made it all the way up. A hell of an accomplishment because there was a lighthouse at the top of the hill. And if you look at some of the pictures, Kent's picture from the street view looking up to the lighthouse is just unreal. And to think that we all made it up there. And then when you get in the lighthouse, you got another probably 200 stairs that you get to the top of the lighthouse and you get to see the entire Lake Como city, the lake, just really, really good views. It was unreal.
You mentioned the good food that you all had. You even got to make your own food, pasta making class. So what was that experience like for your team?
Oh, it was awesome. And I saw pictures of women's basketball in Spain doing the same thing. And it looked like they had a great time. But we had 2 really, really good instructors. We made 2 types of pasta and we split up about 2 or 3 at a kitchen table and all the ingredients in front of us. And their English was good. We understood everything and they went step by step and we made, can't remember the name of the one pasta, but then we made, I think tortellini. And I've never done that before and it seemed really, really easy, but when you get right down to it, there's some steps that you got to really listen to the instructor to get right. But then afterwards we got to taste test and that was really good. When you make it and you get to eat it, it tastes even better.
That's certainly good to see. So again, just quite a year or summer, it feels like, for Alabama. Coach Saban, even in the spring and early summer, had a chance to visit Italy, and he recommended that to everybody. You all get to go there as well. When looking at a trip like this, you mentioned you didn't stay in one city, and then day trips, you were going city to city. Logistically, who were some of the all-stars on either your staff or people that helped Alabama softball make a trip like this possible?
Well, Jaden Spencer, for sure, our director of ops, she basically did the whole thing. We have to thank our Bama Walk-Off Club, the Booster Club, for generous donation. And we had several friends of softball that donated because everything was raised. Our trivia night that we have every year in January, every penny of that went to this trip. We had a coaches clinic in January. Every penny of that clinic went to this trip. And, the first time we went to the Netherlands, we had 21 people on the travel party. And then we went to Japan, I think it went up to 28. And then this time when we went to Italy, we got to take 37. And, someone like Sherry Selby, who's been our secretary and has worked in athletics for over 20 years. To me, that's a great reward for somebody that's been loyal to the core, to Alabama athletics. To be able to take her on a trip like this meant a lot too. And I know she absolutely enjoyed everything. And, also Kent Gidley getting to go on a trip like this, but I know he worked every single day and he hauled all those cameras everywhere. But it's just fun to see people outside of the work environment. And, in a place like Italy, it couldn't be any better.
What a tremendous way to start building momentum towards next spring and what we're looking forward to with the 2024 season. Just after the season came to a close in Oklahoma City, how'd you go about building the roster for this next year, either through the transfer portal or with some of the freshmen that are coming in?
So we'll have 7 newbies now, and we got 3 kids that signed in November, and they all got to come with us because all the logistics, they were already signed and, we knew they were coming. Unfortunately, the 4 kids off the portal, it was too late for them. So we got 2 pitchers, a catcher, and an outfielder recently from Northside High School that played at Sanford. So the pitchers are going to be a huge benefit. We'll have 6 on the roster. And the one young lady from Fairhope, Ailey Johnson, she will be a sophomore, which was a really big key for us because we did not have a sophomore pitcher on the roster. And we have 3 seniors this year. So, and Roger, when you lose 3 pitchers, especially, I don't care what position, but when you lose 3 pitchers that throw a lot, that's a hard row to come back from the next year because you really want to get 3 more. So we'll have 3 seniors, junior, sophomore, freshman, and that's I love that makeup of the staff. And then we're going to hammer home a philosophy of a tag team with our pitchers. That's the way the game is kind of going. It's almost like baseball, and baseball better than anybody, where you can have 5, 6, 7 pitchers in a game. And I don't think it'll go that far with us, but when we have a staff, we're going to use it. We also got a young lady catcher from Phoenix that played at Texas A&M. That was the catcher for Jocelyn Brisky, who was our freshman pitcher in summer ball. So that was a huge bonus to get somebody like her that knows Jocelyn. They're both from Phoenix. They played for the same summer ball team, the Storm. And I think she's going to be a really good athlete for us, a big, big addition. We needed another catcher. So I thought what we gathered and what we signed, we're going to do really well.
It really is exciting for Alabama softball. And over the past week, we've been talking a lot about the national landscape of college sports with all the different realignment we've started to see. And obviously, we got the news 2 years ago that Texas and Oklahoma were joining the SEC. That'll be coming up in next season. For softball, what is some of the realignment that we've seen specifically over the last week really mean for the national landscape in terms of that sport?
Well, I think some kids that might have thought that they were going to play in really good weather, they're not going to. And I agree with Coach Saban, his words, his sentiments. I love what the coach from Missouri, the football coach, what he said about, did anybody take into account the kids, the travel, the parents, going 3 time zones, and we play a 3-game series. So we play Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just like baseball. So our road trips are the longest of any sport. So, you're going to have to leave maybe Wednesday night sometimes, but Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, get home at whatever time. And then, like he said, and oh, by the way, you're going to expect them to go to class on Monday, which, yes, we are, because that's what they're here for, to get a degree. It's unfortunate about the Pac-12 because, I've been a college athletics fan forever. And the Rose Bowl was the game to watch in my territory. I grew up in Iowa. It was Big Ten versus Pac-12 or Pac-10. And who knows what's going to happen there. So the traditional rivalries, just to me, it just doesn't feel right. It's unfortunate, but it's kind of the way of the land right now.
It really is. So a changing landscape in that sport. But this season, we are gearing up for the last year of Alabama, again, without worrying about Texas and Oklahoma in this league. And as coach, we start to wrap up this interview. What are some of the next steps over the next few weeks as you get your team back ready to start the fall semester?
So we're all the freshmen are going to come back around the 18th to the 19th. They're going to move into the dorms, and we'll have a welcome back committee for them. It's always fun to see them. And then we'll start something that we do is we call it class dinners, and every class has a dinner at a coach's house. And one of the things that I've researched is when a person in college goes to someone's home for a meal their first year, the percentage of them returning to that school goes through the roof versus them not going to a home. So it's the easiest thing that we do. So the seniors will come to my house, and then a week later, the freshmen will come over. And then Allie will have one class and Lance will host the other one. And everybody gets to have a home cooked meal within like a week or two of coming back to college. So there's still this little bit of, there could be some homesickness and, all those things that go on in any college kid. And we kind of want to delay that a little bit or subside it. And then we'll start team practices around September 25th. We'll go really heavy into weights and conditioning with Michelle, and she'll get them for quite a while for the first 3 or 4 weeks of the school year, and hopefully get them back into good shape. And then we'll start practice. So we're going to play 8 fall ball games, all at home, 4 doubleheaders, all in the month of October. So you can watch rolltide.com for the dates.
It's pretty exciting. We know you love football as well. Are you excited to see the Crimson Tide back on the field this September?
Oh yeah, and the home schedule is pretty dang good. I'm looking at some of the recruiting weekends, and it's going to be a tough, which one do you pick? Because there's a lot of really good games. So it's an exciting fall. And, today the weather's a little cooler, and it almost feels like, football around the corner. It'll probably be 95 tomorrow, but today when it's the high of 83, it's like, oh man, football's, you can smell it in the air.
Certainly can. Well, we're excited for that. We're excited for softball. And Coach, thank you so much for joining us here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network, recapping the great trip to Italy. I can't wait to talk to you again later in the fall about your team as you gear up for the 2024 season. But all the best with what's coming up. Thank you again. Roll Tide.
Okay, Roll Tide, Roger.